Good afternoon. It's still 6 o'clock. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for coming on to learn about the civics and the U.S. history end of course assessment. My name is Dr. Slade, April Slade. I am the director of K-12 Social Studies. My team, I have Miss Tiffany Evans. She's a specialist, and I have Miss Jessica Brothers also as a specialist. First thing, what is civics? So let's just go through. So civics education is intended to develop students to become knowledgeable, responsible, and actively engaged citizens. In sixth grade, when students enter middle school, majority of our students take U.S. history or law studies. U.S. history is our foundational course of understanding how our nation was founded. For civics, it's more of concepts. It's building the skills to effectively participate in a democratic society, which is what the United States is. We have experienced, students experience the role of civics in political, social, and economic systems. We incorporate an examination of the rights and duties of citizens, the structure and function of our government, and the study of history. So right now, you should probably be having conversation with your students, and I'm sure you have all year long. What are you learning in civics? What are you all talking about? Especially with everything right now that is going on in the world, civics is perfect. Your students should be able to teach millions of people about how our government operate because they're learning it right there in the classroom. The question arises, why do we teach civics in middle school? Well, in 2010, there was it was signed, a act was signed, Sandra Day O'Connor Civic Learning Act, that mandates that students must achieve successful completion of at least one semester of civics education course in middle school. That course that we do, we make it a year-long course because an end of course exam assessment is attached to the course, and we want our students to pass it. All middle school students are enrolled in 1 year of MJ Civics. They either take it their sixth grade year. If they're more advanced, we offer sixth grade advanced honors civics. Seventh grade year will be the year that we offer the civics course. We expect for every student to take it in seventh grade. And then we do have some students that take it in eighth grade. But again, beginning next year, it will be a seventh grade course. We'll have some sixth graders in it and some eighth graders, but it is a seventh grade course. When students take the civics assessment, it will count as 30% of their final course grade. This determines whether or not a student pretty much passes the course or fails the course. If the student do fail the test and fail the course, they will be offered summer school during the summer. So we do offer summer school where they'll retake the course and they'll retake the assessment. Um, but our goal is to push students to pass this EOCA. That's our goal. Each are a description of the demands an item may make on a student. About 15 to 25% of the test is low complexity level questions. 65 to 45% of the assessment is moderate, and 15 to 25% is high complexity questions. What do I mean by low, moderate, and high? For our low complexity test items, that's recall and recognition of previously learned concepts. So like definitions, these are the things that like facts that students should definitely get right. It's very low. Most of our teachers do not teach at a low complexity. They teach at a moderate or high differentiating instruction with the students. So these are like basic terms. Your students may be coming home soon if they have not already with like homework or some type of study guide or remediation packets that the teachers are giving them. A lot of this is the recall. We want to make sure that they really understand these terms to pass this test. The moderate complexity items involves more flexible thinking. It involves the engagement. They have to do some type of mental processing that's beyond recalling or reproducing a response. So they have to examine relationships, its cause and effect, and determining significance. So like, what is the significance of this political cartoon or this event? They have to call on that. For our high complexity questions, it makes a heavy demand on student thinking. The students must engage in more abstract thinking. They must plan, analyze, judge, and be creative as far as the thought to understand what the question is actually asking to answer it. It requires an abstract and sophisticated way, and it involves multiple steps. So they couldn't just look at it and answer it. They will have to definitely look at it. Look at most of our high complexity probably involve a graphic with it. So you got to look in that political cartoon. What is it actually calling for? What is it asking for understanding? Some examples of some activities and the assessments that we do in our classrooms, the interim assessments that the students take, which is bi-weekly, like benchmark assessments to see how well they do. In our district monitoring assessments, they're the same, just like we try to mimic the EOCA. So low complexity, these are things that you would see. Again, identify or recall events, actions, personalities, concepts. It may be a chart table that they just recognize, a particular group that they have to identify. For moderate, if you see they're categorizing the historical or contemporary people, they're determining the relationship between events, they're explaining contemporary or historical problems, and they're identifying similarities and differences. A lot of times in our civics classes, our history classes, we do Venn diagrams. It's a reason why we do the Venn diagrams. We want to know what's the difference, and then in the middle, of course, what's similar. For high complexity, they're going to be solving or predicting the outcome of a problem. They're going to be drawing conclusions, generalizations, providing justification, predicting long-term results, analyzing again, recognizing and explaining, and again, going back to that Venn diagram where they're analyzing similarities and differences. So that's the explanation of the complexity levels with examples. The use of graphics. So this is an example of a graphic that the student could see on the test. The items for graphics may include political cartoons, graphs, charts, tables, maps, photographs, diagrams, and illustrations. This is just an example, and it says the diagram below describes a cause that led to the writing of the Declaration of Independence that we talk about, right? The teachers talk about the Declaration of Independence. In U.S. history, they learn about the foundation of what actually happened leading up to it. In civics, we're looking at the actual concepts of it. And so you have a box with a question mark in it. So students will have to automatically know. It says British policies limit colonial rights, question mark, the British ignore colonial grievances, and then the Declaration of Independence is approved by the colonists. Which action completes the diagram? So they'll go through it. They should know that colonial ag trade did not increase. Why? Because the king was putting all of these taxes on them. So of course the trade was not increasing. Religious devotion increases. We do not discuss any type of religious devotion at the time because the people, the colonists, are upset. Colonial demand for political change increase. Yes, they want some change, so they should automatically pick up on that. And then military demand for military assistance. No, they did not want that because the king was putting soldiers in their homes and so forth without their. So it was a lot going on. They should know this from civics, and they should automatically be able to look at this. And on the computers, the students will be able to highlight, cross out, and so forth. So they should be able to look at it and automatically know through their context clues and through Cuban, knowing that there was a demand for political change increase at that time. Test item specs. What are the students tested on? So the test item specs gives us an overview of what the benchmarks that students will be assessed in on the civics EOC exam. It also gives us sample. So the EOC exam for civics is broken down into 4 groups: origins and purposes of law and government, roles, rights, and responsibilities of citizens, government policies and political processes, and organization and function of government. This could be a sample item on the test, which is 2.9. They could look at this poster. It says the poster below was created in 1917. What type of communication is shown in this poster? So the students looking at this political cartoon, you will look at it, and the first thing that should stand out to you is a guy in a jacket that has stars and his pants are stripes. So we should automatically know that this will be a representation of Uncle Sam. And then his picture, it says Liberty Bonds. That's what it says. He's handing out this something that says Liberty Bonds. And the title says, invest your money with Uncle Sam. Join the crowd. Buy a Liberty Bond. The safest investment in the world. Pays 3.5% and is non-taxable. So it says, which type of communication is shown in this picture? You have people in line. They're decked out in line to get a Liberty Bond. Would it be accurate, biased, informational, or propaganda? We know from our definitions, terminology, this will be propaganda. And this will be more of a moderate complexity question, not just recall, because the student will definitely have to look in the graphic and understand what it is asking for. Recently, our students took a DMA 3 district monitoring assessment, and we use this assessment as a way to see how students are doing and what they need to work on. Overall, as a district, there were 8 benchmarks that students need to work on to ensure that they pass this assessment. These are benchmarks that they did not do well on. So I wanted to go through this so the parents can ensure that your students are working on it. The first one was 3.7. Students are having a hard time examining the processes of the legislative branch. My teachers are aware and they're working on these benchmarks with the students up until the test. So students need to understand how a bill becomes a law, how appointments are confirmed, and committee selection. They must be able to compare local, state, and national lawmakers, compare and contrast the lawmaking process at the local, state, and national levels. So again, what I'm going through, these are benchmarks that they did not do well on. This is something that parents, we need your help. Ensure that your students are coming in and they're doing some form of homework on these benchmarks. If not, definitely reach out to the teacher. This is where they should be remediating on, because we want them to pass this test. 2.8, another one with that's where that picture, that graphic came from. Identify methods used by the media to monitor and hold government accountable. Identify methods used by individuals to monitor, hold accountable, and influence the government. Identify methods used by interest groups to monitor and influence the government. When I looked at this benchmark, something that the students missed was the methods used by interest groups. So I asked my civics teachers to make sure they hark on and go back and reteach about the importance of interest groups, why we have interest groups, and what their methods are, such as acting as a watchdog to inform our political parties of what's going on, what the need is. 1.3 is a benchmark that we always have trouble in. This is statewide. This is identifying the important ideas contained in the Magna Carta, the Mayflower Compact, the English Bill of Rights, and common sense. Teachers taught this benchmark at the beginning of the year, but it's one that students still just cannot grasp the concepts. And so some important items we want them to understand is that out of the Magna Carta, what do we get from that right now? We have in the United States, limited government. Mayflower Compact, we have consent of the governed and self-government. English Bill of Rights, limited rights of the king and expand the rights of people that are protected by the government. And then common sense, we have representative self-government. So what we want students to do is kind of like a graphic organizer where they're attaching these things, and I asked for the teachers to definitely work on that. Students were tested on this benchmark, but teachers had not had taught it. It is a fairly new benchmark. I asked teachers to go back and reteach this, and I spoke on it. Is evaluating various economic systems. Students have to understand the difference between capitalism, communism, and socialism. They have to be able to compare the economic prosperity and opportunity of current nations. I think what was missed is not just the terminology, but applying scenarios to these cases. So students will like read a scenario and have to attach like is it capitalism, communism, or socialism. They also have to understand the difference between a command and a market economy. For benchmark 3.9, it was examining the processes of the judicial branch. Again, distinguishing the structure, functions, and powers of the courts at state and federal levels, recognizing that the powers and jurisdiction of the state and federal courts are derived from their respective constitutions, and comparing trial and appellate processes. This is a lot in this benchmark. I just asked for teachers to go back and reteach this so students can understand the structures of the federal courts. Students understand what a Supreme Court is. They don't understand the highest court. But I need them to understand U.S. courts. There are U.S. courts, U.S. district courts, U.S. Court of Appeals, and then they need to be reading on the test. They'll have a scenario, and they have to understand with that scenario which court does this case go to. Does it go to the Supreme Court, is U.S. Court, the U.S. District Court, or U.S. Court of Appeal? So That could be definitely fun with the teachers doing a gallery walk, but I also ask for parents to ensure that students understand and work with them on that benchmark. 4.2, this was a fourth quarter benchmark that actually teachers taught last week. And they may be on, some may be on it right now if they're not remediating fully, but it's identifying major international organizations in which government plays a role. Students must understand the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, United Nations, UN, the International Court of Justice, and the World Trade Organization, WTO. They must be able to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the U.S. membership in these organizations. They must understand the relationship between the U.S. domestic and foreign policy and the advantages of the United States participating in these organizations that are listed in the benchmark. So again, all those students were tested on it. They did not do well. We expect it always increases because now the students have learned it because the teachers have taught it. So we should see an increase on the EOC in May. 1.6, student struggle. We did that question on the Declaration of Independence. We need for them just to understand that it was a breakup letter, and they need to understand the theory of government that came from that was natural law and self-government, and understand that the Declaration of Independence included a list of grievances, things that the colonists did not like. It's like, what is a grievance? And then take it. And so I always tell the teachers to play that song, Too Late to Apologize. It's too late to apologize. Because it was too late. The colonists were over it. So we pushed that. And I asked for, hey, parents, play that in the car one day with your kids and see what they say. Say, hey, what does this go along with in civics? And see if they say the Declaration of Independence. And the last benchmark, the students did not do well on. Again, it was a fourth quarter benchmark. The teachers just taught it in the past 2 weeks. So we knew that it would be low, but we definitely know that now the students should do well. It's again recognizing the difference between domestic and foreign policy. They have to identify issues that relate to that, and they have to define national interests and identify the means available to the national government to pursue the United States national interest. So they're looking at military sources and economic sources in that. So I asked, again, my teachers are remediating and reteaching these benchmarks. I just asked for the parents to help to ensure that the students are doing something at home in reference to these benchmarks. So how can you support? What are some resources that you can support your student? I will be, again, emailing this out. At the end, I'm going to do a survey. You put your email in. I'll be emailing this out to you so you will have it for anyone that's taking notes. So the first link will be Civics 360. Civics 360 is something that at home your students can work on to ensure that they are doing some type of online, just some like resource tutoring that they can get. It's called Civics 360. It has great lessons for the students for every benchmark. There are some CPOM, State of Florida tutorials they can go on, and this is for all content areas, English, math, science, and social studies, but I am talking about civics now. So for civics, they could go on, they could click on the benchmark, they can listen. They need headphones, or they would definitely need a quiet space to listen about the concept or benchmark, and then they will be answering questions and doing some activities. iCivics.org, there are some games set up for students to play in reference to the benchmarks. Some just like fun games they can play to understand. We ask for the parents to allow the students to at least do like 30 to 45 minutes of home remediation, home learning before the assessment in reference to civics to ensure that they understand. The teacher may again be sending something at home as well. And so I want to thank you from the Office of Social Studies. Again, my name is Dr. April Slade, and I am the Director of K-12 Social Studies. I ask for you to please scan this link right now, fill it out, and I will make sure that I email you this PowerPoint. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to students making a passing grade on their end of course assessment so they will not have to retake this course. Thank you all for attending. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email.